My name is Elina Korhonen. I'm 46 years old, living in Helsinki, Finland. I live on a quiet street in the Kallio district, where the mornings are soft and pale, and the snow sometimes blankets the sidewalks so completely you feel like the world has paused. This is my story. I left him on a Tuesday. That detail matters more than people think. Tuesday isn't dramatic. It isn't symbolic. It doesn't promise anything. It's not a beginning or an ending day. It's just there, which is exactly how leaving felt. Not like a movie scene. No shouting, no door slamming, no final speech that wrapped everything up neatly. Just the quiet realization that I couldn't keep living this way and still recognize myself in the mirror. Not because he hit me, not because he cheated, but because he finally stopped drinking. And that's the part no one understands. That's the sentence that makes people tilt their heads. That's the shame I carry like a stone in my chest. They wait for me to correct myself, to add another reason, to explain it better. I never can. People want villains and victims. They want a reason they can repeat without lowering their voice, something that lets them feel comfortable choosing sides. This one doesn't give them that. It makes them uncomfortable. It still makes me uncomfortable. We met when I was 24. I still believed love fixed things. I still believed effort was rewarded. That if you stayed long enough, tried hard enough, life would eventually soften. He was brilliant, funny, passionate, the kind of man who'd recite poetry to stray cats just to make them feel seen. I remember stopping on the sidewalk the first time I saw it, watching him crouch down, completely serious, as if the cat were an old friend. I laughed. I fell hard. I remember thinking, this is a man who notices the world. Even then, there was a shadow, a restlessness he couldn't name, a glass always half full, then empty, then refilled. I noticed it. I just didn't understand it yet. I told myself it was youth, creative temperament, something temporary, something love would smooth out. By year 3 of our marriage, half full was a memory. The refills came faster, the silences grew longer. He wasn't mean drunk, he wasn't violent, he wasn't cruel, he was absent drunk. Gone in body? No. Gone in soul? Completely. There's a specific loneliness that comes from sharing a home with someone who isn't really there. It's quieter than shouting, harder to explain. You eat dinner together but feel alone. You talk and hear your own voice echo back at you. You can't explain it to people who haven't lived it. They'll say things like, at least he wasn't abusive, as if absence doesn't bruise, as if neglect doesn't hollow you out. I became a ghost in my own life. Cooking meals he forgot to eat, cleaning up glasses I didn't remember pouring, keeping track of bills, appointments, apologies, holding his hair back while he vomited regret into porcelain sinks at 2 a.m, lying awake, listening to him whisper apologies to a version of himself that hadn't existed in years. Some nights I stared at the ceiling and wondered when I'd stopped being a wife and started being a system. I stayed. Not out of love, though God knows I tried to keep that flame alive. I stayed because I believed in the man underneath, and because I thought if I left, he'd drown. That belief becomes a cage. You tell yourself you're strong enough for 2, that your patience is what's holding everything together, that if you just try harder, things won't fall apart. You confuse endurance with devotion. You confuse suffering with loyalty. Then came the accident, not his, ours. Our daughter, just 6, ran into the street chasing a red ball, bright red, bouncing. So ordinary, it still hurts to think about. He was on the porch, glass in hand, eyes glazed. I screamed her name. He didn't move. Time slowed in a way I didn't know was possible. Every step felt too long, every breath too loud. I got to her in time. She was fine. But in that second, watching him not react, something in me broke clean off. Not cracked, not bruised, broken. That night, I gave him an ultimatum. Get help, or I take her and go. I expected anger, denial, blame. Instead, he looked at me, really looked, and for the first time in years, his eyes were clear. I will, he whispered, I swear. And he did. He went to rehab. He went to meetings. He stopped explaining and started listening. He called me every night, not drunk, not begging, not drowning in guilt, just present. How was her day? Did she draw that picture for me? Tell her I'm proud. Those calls broke me in ways the drinking never had, because they showed me the man I'd been waiting for was finally here. 6 months later, he came home sober, clean-shaven, eyes bright, voice steady. He made pancakes, remembered our anniversary, folded laundry without being asked. He held our daughter like she was made of light. Everyone told me how lucky I was, how strong he was, how inspiring our story would be. They said things like, now you can finally breathe. They said, now it's your turn to be happy. And that's when I packed my bags. You're thinking I'm cruel, cold, unforgiving. I thought that too. But here's what no one sees. While he was getting better, I was disappearing. All those years of holding us together, of being mother, father, nurse, therapist, accountant, I'd forgotten who I was. My dreams, buried. My joy, borrowed. My identity, reduced to survival. I didn't know what I liked anymore. I didn't know what rested me. I only knew how to respond to crises. When he got sober, he got his life back. But I realized I'd never had mine. And worse, I was terrified of the new him. Because the old him, I knew how to survive him. I had routines, armor, low expectations. But this kind, supportive, present, loving man, I didn't know how to be loved by him. I didn't trust it. I didn't believe I deserved it after years of resentment. Resentment doesn't disappear just because the cause does. It settles into the body. It waits. It teaches you how to fight shadows. It teaches you how to protect yourself. It teaches you to measure love and caution. And so I left. Not because he failed, but because I finally saw how much I'd lost and how little of me was left to give. He begged, cried, promised to go slower, to rebuild, and I whispered the cruelest truth I've ever spoken. I don't know how to be your wife anymore. I only know how to be your caretaker. Now, he's thriving. A new partner, a garden, sobriety pins lining a drawer, and our daughter adores him. I watch them sometimes and feel two things at once. Relief and grief. Relief because I know she is safe. Grief because I realize how much I missed. How many moments I sacrificed, believing love meant endurance, believing love meant survival. Me, I'm healing. Slowly, therapy, solitude, learning to sit with silence without filling it with someone else's needs. I walk alone sometimes, empty streets, late nights. I breathe in air that isn't filled with another person's expectations. I feel my own heartbeat. I hear it. It reminds me I exist. Some days healing looks like progress. Other days it looks like mourning a version of myself that never got to exist. I make small decisions now. I buy myself flowers. I write letters to no one. I read books I've ignored for decades. I take long baths. I close my eyes and just feel my own hands, my own skin. And in those moments, I feel a strange freedom. Not guilt, not shame, not the need to fix or save anyone else. Just me. Sometimes I wonder, if I'd stayed, would we have found each other again? Or would I have resented him for being whole while I was still in pieces? Would I have hated him quietly, watching him flourish while I dissolved? I don't know. There isn't a clean answer. There isn't a lesson that fits neatly at the end. But I do know this. Leaving wasn't punishment. It wasn't spite. It was self-preservation. And maybe that's the most honest kind of love there is. Because love is not only about holding someone up. Sometimes it's about letting go, even if it breaks your heart. Sometimes love is the courage to say, I will not lose myself to save someone else. I am learning to trust myself again, to be patient with my own heartbeat, to hear my own voice, to remember my own name. I sit with my daughter and teach her small things now. How to draw, how to dance, how to speak her mind, how to love herself before loving anyone else. I hope she sees that she sees that strength is not always loud, that courage is not always heroic in the traditional sense. Sometimes courage is quiet. Sometimes courage is simply leaving. I watch my life slowly unfold in ways I never thought possible. I travel, I write, I meet new people, I laugh without fear of judgment. And when I think about him now, I feel something unexpected. Gratitude, not for what we had, not for what he became, but gratitude that I learned finally how to love myself enough to survive. If you've ever had to choose between saving someone else and saving yourself, you're not selfish, you're human. Healing isn't always pretty, but it's always worth it. And sometimes it's the only way to truly be free. Subscribe if you believe healing isn't always pretty, but it's always worth it.